Well, it's that time of the week again. Truth, Honour and Integrity show. Tonight's Thursday, January the 12th. And we have 8 more days left of, I'll use Drake's term, the long-legged Mac Daddy. I'll have more on him later in the show. The music. People always like to know what the music. Well, another one bites the dust. I kind of hinted at it last week. It was scrubbed early, that song, as was Ding Dong the Witch is Dead. As I'm still waiting for full confirmation, but it doesn't look good for Elizabeth, as she's commonly known. Charles seems to think he's the takeover man. I think the public and the council and a few others might have something to say about that, but we'll see. Alright, where are we going to go? Well, for the new listeners, this is the Truth, Honour and Integrity show. My name's Thomas Williams, and if you want to join the group, it's called the Truth, Honour and Integrity on the Facebook page. Yes, I know people don't like Facebook, but this group is different. You will see when you join. If you want to send an email in for some questions to the show, it's truth.honour.and.integrity@gmail.com. All the details are on the top of the page. It's generally on the pinned post. If you want to donate to the foundation, that is also on the pinned post on the Facebook page. Or you can go to the website thepeoplesclub.org and read all about what's coming up with the foundation. Lots of news this week. Intel is minimal. There's a reason for that. A big reason. It's kind of gone into a lockdown as things are being dealt with in no uncertain terms in many places around the world. Fun and games in Israel, you'll see more about that. There's fun and games going on in here. Of course, America, people around the world get fed up of hearing that America's the most important because it's kind of been rammed down our throats via the television. But the reality is America was always the final battlefield. It's been the battlefield for a long time, way before recorded history, and so it's kind of fitting that the end game will start from here. And over the next coming weeks we're going to see some rather extraordinary things. It won't be all pleasant, because this life's not pleasant, let's be honest. It's been a life of struggle, poverty, homelessness, violence, crime, all engineered deliberately against the people, division, divide and conquer. All of you who listen to the show are all well aware of that. But I gave the listeners on OYM a question last week on Sunday. Thanks to those to Alan and Steve for inviting me on again. I will be appearing on the People's Internet Radio of Ireland fairly soon. I've been told they're planning me to go on there fairly soon, so that will be something to look forward to. I may do a special show on Sunday with some fairly extraordinary information to do with life, creation, the soul, death, how we got here, and how they changed not only this planet but the whole universe by messing around. So I'm been busy preparing that, and I may have it ready for the weekend. We'll see. If not, I may do a special show later in the week, or just leave it for next Thursday. We'll see how it goes. Right. Some news items, and then I'm going to go into a bit of a piece on Obama and a few other things I would like to cover before the second hour. We will be having Dr. Naidu on, or the judge, from Monetize COLB, and it's always entertaining when he comes on. We never know what he's going to say, and we always have a laugh. So he'll be on in about an hour. Right, Ford. We covered this a couple of months ago. Have apparently now cancelled their move to Mexico following talks with Mr. Trump. Now, it's rumoured that Trump and his team are going to increase the taxes to the companies, the American companies that choose to move abroad. So hopefully it's for that reason and not some dodgy kickback deal, which we are all too familiar with. Well, that's good news for the workers in Ford. Let me just check. More sound, everything cranked up all the way. Right, let me just check that sound again. It's always the same when I have guests on, because the studio version sound is not as good as the web version, but it's one of the unfortunate things about Speaker. Hopefully one day they'll fix it and I can have guests on the web version, which I can't. So this is the studio version and the sound is always a bit lower. Right, where are we next? Another sign of the sea of change taking place. Nutty asshole is being investigated for bribes, for fraud and corruption back in Israel. I would suggest his time is limited. Mr. Netanyahu, or Nutty asshole, which is probably more fitting, has done nothing but destroy and been a blight in the whole Middle East community, and his time, I am led to believe, is very, very short. So look for that in the near future. CIA director, another sign of change. R. James Woolsey Jr., a veteran of 4 presidential administrations, resigned last Thursday from Donald Trump's transition team, and Mr. Woolsey's resignation as a Trump senior advisor comes amid frustrations over the incoming administration's national security plans and Trump's public comments undermining the intelligence community. Well, if the intelligence community are going to play games, we'll have more on that later. It's not a surprise. So his resignation was effective immediately. Mr. Woolsey said that he didn't want to fly under false colours any longer. That's a laugh, seeing he's been there for the last 4 presidential terms. He's been an advisor and felt that I was making a contribution, but I'm not really functioning as an advisor anymore. Recently, Mr. Woolsey has been excluded from discussions on intelligence matters with Trump and the retired Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, who will be the incoming White House National Security Advisor. They said that Woolsey had grown increasingly uncomfortable lending his name and credibility to the transition team without being consulted. He was also taken aback by Trump is considering completely revamping the current country's intelligence framework. Well, that is a given to me, because the amount that those people waste and the damage that eventually will come out of what's been going on in some of the intelligence agencies will be fairly damning. Mr. Woolsey said, to be called a senior advisor and your opinion is not sought is something I cannot handle. He's been a key player in the national security firmament since the late 1970s, when he served as Undersecretary to the Navy in the Jimmy Carter administration and held other roles with Ronald Reagan, Daddy Jeb Bush and Bill Clinton. And culminating with the post as Director of CIA between 1993 and 1995. So, where are we? Wish people would stop messing with me, apart from Holly during the show. Right. President-elect again, Donald Trump transition staff has issued a blank edict requiring politically appointed ambassadors to leave their overseas posts by Inauguration Day. This completely breaks with tradition, as normally they are given a period of a grace period, but no more. He's telling all of them to leave by next Friday. The mandate issued without exceptions, according to a State Department cable sent on December 23rd, who saw it and said he threatens to leave the United States without Senate-confirmed envoys for months in critical nations like Germany, Canada and Britain. In the past, administrations of both parties have often granted extensions on a case-by-case basis to allow a handful of ambassadors, particularly those with school-aged children, to remain in place for weeks or even months. Not no more. Another sign of the change. One hopes it's going to be a positive one. This is interesting. Faction infighting? Oops. A row this week broke out between the Vatican and the Knights of Malta, an ancient Catholic order. A top official was sacked over a contraception scandal. It followed revelations that the Knights' charity branch had distributed thousands of condoms in Myanmar, and the order's Grand Chancellor, Albrecht von Bossellager, another German, was suspended over the matter on December the 8th. The Catholic Church, in their wisdom, forbids the use of artificial contraception. I could say something about that, but maybe we might get shut down. So it's okay to kiss Jesus on the nether regions, but you can't wear condoms? Really? Mr. Bossellager has said he did not know about the condom distribution program, which is an anti-HIV and family planning initiative, and stopped it when he learned of its existence. Now the 9-year-old order is refusing to cooperate with a Vatican investigation into his sacking and warning members that they speak with Pope Francis's team. They must not contradict the decision by the order to replace Mr. Bossellager. The Knights called the Pope's review a legally irrelevant move aimed at limiting the order's sovereignty. Ooh, don't we just love it when the factions infight? So, who is the Order of Malta? For those who don't know, the sovereign, of course we've covered that mention a few times recently, they are a sovereign entity. Order of Malta traces its histories to the 11th century with the establishment of an infirmary in Jerusalem, St. John's Hospital, as I think, that cared for pilgrims of all faiths. The lay religious order of the Catholic Church now has 13,500 members and 100,000 staff and volunteers who provide, allegedly, healthcare in hospitals and clinics around the world. The Order of Malta enjoys many of the privileges of a nation-state. It issues its own stamps, passports and license plates, and holds diplomatic relations with 106 states, the Holy See included. Today the Knights are a unique sovereign entity in that they rule over no territory except a palace in one of Rome's smartest shopping districts, a church and an elegant villa overlooking the city. The Order's international headquarters is in a palace situated in Rome's Via Conditti, a short distance from the Spanish Steps. The atmosphere inside the building was once described as reminded me of an Oxbridge College or a London club. That's where it originated from. Inside the Porter's Lodge there are cubby holes for letters addressed to His Highness, indeed, the Grand Master, who is actually British, a guy by the name of Matthew Festing, known as His Most Eminent Highness. You have to laugh at the titles they give themselves. Eminent Highness, indeed. What a load of bullshittery that is. Really. And Mr. Matthew Festing remains the only leader of an entity within the Catholic Church in modern times, apart from the Pope as sovereign of Vatican City-State and the Bishop of Urgell, a co-prince of Andorra. To be considered as an independent monarch, historically many bishops and archbishops held sovereign prince status, and to senior officials, though the order sounds like a masculine institution, the knights are not exclusively male. As of 2013, women made up 30% of its members and are known as dames. The group is reportedly keen to shed its aristocratic image and to attract new talent to continue its humanitarian work. They must devote themselves to humanitarian assistance, as the doctrine of the Knights of Malta. Since when have they been doing that? Since when? So, I hope that tells you who and what the Knights of Malta is. They're not good. Senior officials in the Russian government allegedly were celebrating Donald Trump's victory over Hillary Clinton as a geopolitical win for Moscow, according to US officials who said American intelligence, that's a laugh, agencies intercepted communications in the aftermath of the election in which Russian officials congratulated themselves on the outcome. The reaction among high-ranking Russian officials, including some of the US officials believe had knowledge of the country's cyber campaign to interfere in the US elections. The US intelligence community's assessment that Moscow's efforts were aimed at least in part at helping Trump win the White House. Other key pieces of information gathered by the US spy agencies include the identification of actors. Yeah, we in the alternative community know all about actors when you're pulling your false flag stunts. Actors. And they are involved in delivering stolen democratic emails to the WikiLeaks website, and disparities in the levels of effort Russian intelligence entities devoted to penetrating and exploiting sensitive information stored on Democratic and Republican campaign networks. Oh, the irony of all that. I'll cover more of that later. Announced this week, I'm not going to cover it too much because I've got too much to get through. Scientists have allegedly found a new organ situated in the gut. I think they may find that particular item is an implant, and those will be removed. Here's I've covered this before, but not perhaps people will understand the depth of it. I'm not going to go into it too much, but where they come up with this 7 billion population, when you get figures like this, perhaps we really need to have a look at that again. Women in Europe are having fewer children. It's happening in America as well, and many other countries. But in Southern Europe, more than a fifth of women born in the 1970s are still childless. Over 20% of women in their middle 40s are still childless. Southern Europe. In Northern Europe, it's 15% and 18% in Western Europe. So how, with all the wars and all the deaths, crime, violence, and a reducing birth rate, how is the population doubling? Think about that. He thinks it's more of their bullshittery. And this is something that really needs to be looked at, and I will push on this with the foundation people. Human workers at Fukokoku, yes, I did say that right, mutual life insurance are set to be replaced by an artificial intelligence that can calculate payouts to policyholders. After the 200 million yen, $1 million AI system is installed this month, the company believes productivity will be increased by 30%, and it would save about 140 million yen, which is $1.2 million a year. Oh, that's good. That means the policies will go down money. No, never does it? The company also said it believes it will get a return on its investment in under 2 years. The artificial intelligence system is based on IBM's Watson Explorer, which according to the tech firm has cognitive technology that can think like a human. That is complete and utter bullshittery. They can't. It's impossible. Maybe act, but not think. That's the illusion. They cannot put emotion in, so it can't be like a human, and can analyze and interpret data. This means it can analyze, although what they're saying it does, it can analyze all manner of medical data before calculating payouts. AI is being trialled in a number of sectors in Japan, even in politics. Oh, really? I thought they were already there. Where next month civil servants will be assisted by an artificial intelligence, and the march of AI is not expected to stop anytime soon. I wouldn't count on that. A 2015 report by the Nomura Research Institute has stated almost half of all jobs in Japan could be replaced by robots in 2035. One particular sector appears safe for now is academia. At the end of 2016, a team of researchers gave up making a robot which could pass the entrance exam for Tokyo University. AI is not good at answering the type of questions that require an ability to grasp meanings across a broad spectrum. So, in other words, it can't think like a human. One hand they're telling you one thing and the next sentence another. The spread of AI isn't limited to Japan. The NHS is trialling artificial intelligence as an alternative to the 111 helpline, and bosses have said AI is the next frontier for online retail. Really. Mr. Zuckerberg has announced a new personal challenge for the new year, fueling speculation he wants to enter politics. Do us a favour, you've messed up Facebook, we don't need your type in politics. Bye. Berlin. We've had 3 cases in the past week of the US Inc. military, not the American military, the US Inc. military doing some rather alarming things. And people asked about why the Fort Lauderdale incident. Well, this is what took place on Friday. In Berlin, ships began unloading US tanks, self-propelled howitzers and hundreds of other fighting vehicles in the northern German port of Bremerhaven to be moved into Eastern Europe to bolster NATO's deterrence against a possible Russian aggression. Some 3,500 troops from the 4th Infantry Division in Fort Carson, Colorado will be joining up with the equipment, which includes 87 tanks and 144 Bradley fighting vehicles. Over the next 2 weeks, the deployment marks the start of a new phase of Operation Atlantic Resolve, which foresees the continuous presence of an American Armoured Brigade combat team in Europe on a 9-month rotational basis. The mission is meant to help allay concerns from Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland and other NATO allies over an increasingly unpredictable and bellicose Russia. New forces will gather first in Poland and then fan out across 7 countries from Estonia to Bulgaria. Headquarters unit will be stationed in Germany. When he announced the move last year, US Defense Secretary Ash Carter said the forces would take part in regular exercises. This is the Nazi faction again. Same people, same trouble, same nonsense. You know, these same clowns also decided to shoot across the bows of 4 Iranian ships that were in their own waters in this past week. They're desperate to start some sort of war. Desperate. It's their only way out now. It will fail, but it shows the depth and idiocy and complete psychopathic nature of these people. And it's long past time that they were removed out of humanity's harm way, in my opinion. Long past time. They also threatened North Korea that if they did a missile test that they would shoot it down. Imagine if the North Koreans did that to America. Imagine if the Iranian ships were in the New York Harbour or around Delaware and started firing across the bow of US ships. Imagine the uproar. Seems to be alright to do it in their countries, but imagine the uproar if it took place here. In other news, the banking regulator on Monday sued the Bank of America $542 million in deposit insurance. It said that the US second largest bank had refused to pay. It's all very well fining these banks, but given it was the charges were labelled against the people, where's our returns on it? Tribal leadership, Tohono O'odham, I hope I said that right, nation in southern Arizona said they will not support a border wall project on their land. Part of the reservation extends into Mexico and covers 75 miles of the international border. He went on to say that wall will be built over my dead body, and I don't wish to die, but I do wish to work together with people so we can truly protect the homeland of this place they call the United States of America. But it's not only for our people, but for the American people. Right, where are we for time? Doing okay. Alright, so I've covered that, Right. Mr. Obama is leaving this week. Finally, says many. I thought I'd do a mini review of his time in office just to remind people, because he did say something in his speech this week which can be looked at both ways. And he said, "I'm asking you to believe not in my ability to bring about change, but in yours." Well, many people believed he would bring about change, but he didn't. But perhaps that statement should be a message to we the people, that we don't look for Mr. Trump to bring about change, but we do. He went on to say the US, actually it's America, Mr. Obama, not US, and its democracy is under threat, he says. Now, the definition of democracy is a form of government for and by the people. I haven't seen any evidence in his 8 years of anything in the government being for or by the people. All I've seen is complete disregard. So what has Mr. Obama left behind? 8 years of continuing to sacrifice our children in bogus wars. 8 years of continuing to fail children in schools. 8 years and the increase in the exposure the children have had to endure to vaccines. 8 years of our degradation of our food, water and air, increased poverty, and one of the biggest things is failing to bridge the divide between the black and the white community. In fact, not only did he fail to bridge, he actually tried to worsen it. That should not be forgotten. He failed to rein in the banks. All Wall Street, despite them creating the situation the year he took over, it was right in his face. He had an opportunity to clean house. He chose not to. Here we are 8 years later and still in recession, despite what the bogus figures and bogus markets tell us. No better now than it was then. He failed to rein in the goose-stepping cops he chooses to call law enforcement. In Baltimore, in the past 2 days, Mr. Obama and his administration is making a last-minute push for police overhauls in 2 of the nation's most violent cities, Baltimore and Chicago, where officers have been accused of routinely mistreating African Americans. 8 years to do it, and he does it in his final week. 8 years of people suffering at the hands of violent, psychopathic, thug cops who seem to think this week it was fun to arrest people for feeding the homeless. Time for the community to find out where they live, not to exert violence, but to shame them out of the community for the tactics they are carrying out. Yes, I'm aware they are following orders. German people were following orders. Doesn't mean to say it was right. Mr. Obama failed to address the slide of contempt that the rest of the world views Americans. More and more countries are seen as now as the pariahs of the planet, all under his watch. signed off on the most executive orders in history, and what became more and more increased tyrannical executive orders also. Increased war spending, increased the alleged national debt, over doubled it, increased poverty, increased homelessness, and increased dependency on food stamps. Allowed Nestle to siphon billions of gallons of water in California and other regions whilst the people were told to ration it. Did nothing. Decreased hope and change. In fact, he came in, those who remember, talking about change. What did he change? Nothing of benefit for the people. Over the last eight years, people have seen their jobs disappear, they've seen their hours reduced, and they've seen their pay in real time reduced also. We've seen foreclosures go through the roof. Mr. Obama also stood by whilst treasonous people in his own government committed all kinds of acts against the people, and not one person got arrested or even charged. Fired more generals than any other president in history. And let us not forget a rather sad event. Mr. Obama sat there in front of the synthetic media with a big gleaming smile on his face and pulled on people's heartstrings with the triggering blonde child on his lap. Yes, we know what that means, Mr. Obama. Pizzagate will expose that further. That little blonde child was allegedly murdered in Sandy Hook School a week earlier, all to aid the UN fascists and remove guns from American people. Of all your acts, Mr. Obama, this is the most unforgivable in my book. You took more days off to play golf than even idiot Bush did. Did he improve his handicap? No. He is the handicap. What I feel sorry most for of Mr. Obama's reign of tyranny is the black people. After years of struggling, being beaten, oppressed, they saw Mr. Obama as the shining beacon they were waiting to see since Dr. King. He promised them change. He gave them nothing. He sold out his own creed, shattered their hopes into a million pieces. Seems that was the plan all along, Mr. Obama, wasn't it? Continue the race division, which your government and the synthetic news platforms tried to escalate in Ferguson, Baltimore, and your home gangster town of Chicago. The most damning thing is Mr. Obama's legacy after 8 years is people have largely forgotten how bad idiot Bush was in the previous government. That is the biggest indictment of you, Mr. Obama. Yeah, 8 years of Mr. Obama, and people have forgotten about idiot Bush. That's some legacy you left, Mr. Obama. Right. So the Russian have allegedly hacked the US election. I guess we now know how other countries feel. Maybe not. CIA this week making blank statements that Russia was involved and yet provide zero evidence to support the case. A bit like the weapons of mass destruction bullshittery that led to the Iraq war, is it not? Even though said war was planned 3 years prior. Yes, Mr. Blair, we do know you were involved. For those who don't know, the CIA, or the mirror version of CIA, because there is 3 versions, there was 2, they're now fighting in group 2, which is negative, and now created a splinter group to be split into 3 now. I hope they keep dividing and conquering themselves. So the CIA have always worked with the MI6, which is the British intelligence, Mossad, we all know who that is, and also the KGB. They're all linked. And yet they accuse others of interfering when they're all linked to begin with. So this is the final week of Obama. He didn't get his martial law as forecast on this show, and this is where we're at with Mr. Trump. He's not Hillary, which is a plus, but he's not exactly clean either, is he? The question remains, who bailed him out 4 times from bankruptcy? I think we all know. His links, and from what I gather, payments received via AIPAC. That's the Zionist control group, who allowed him to not pay thousands of employees working for him by filing bankruptcy. Again, yet to be settled. Other, as yet fully substantiated rumours of sexual crimes. All of this, to me, smacks of being part of their system. Now, back in November of 2015, I did a rather important show detailing the remnants of what was known as the Illuminati. The Future of Humanity show that was done in June or July of the same year detailed the control structure above the Illuminati. Now, this was done so that people can understand what the new control structure of control was and recognise who is who and what is what. Now, we've warned many times on this show of faction infighting, and we did say it would ramp up, and they have. The fighting has now reached the public arena. I think most have seen that now. And what we are seeing now is them exposing each other on a massive scale, as predicted on this show. Now, this is their war, not ours. They will play it out. It won't be allowed to spill over into the public arena via proxy wars. The cabal will continue to think that they are in control of it, and they're just culling their numbers as they no longer feel they need the current numbers to keep us in check. Ultimately, they will end their war between each other, and their idea is, at the end of it, is to rule over us with a one world government, with a one world religion, from a third temple built in Jerusalem, or so they thought. But what will take place is they will continue to cull each other, continue to expose each other via the synthetics news platform, continue to throw each other under the bus, and this will bring the avalanche of disclosure we've all been waiting for. It's the golf ball effect. Ping, 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 ping. When the dust settles, what will be left of them will be a few with very limited control or powers, and then this will be our opportunity to step up and bridge the gap and the divide. The question as posed on the OYM show is, what happens after they step down? What will you do after the standard reply is, I will party, when the cabal are ended? What comes next? Will you carry on as if nothing has happened and wait for synthetic news platforms to tell you what to do? Or will you all get your creator heads on and become a leader amongst leaders and lead this planet back to something resembling an actual civilized place to live and thrive, and not exist and just survive? Ultimately, the choice is yours. It always was. You've just forgotten to exercise it. That is what's going to take place. An avalanche of disclosure. The capital D, I don't expect it to be this year. I think there's going to be too much to deal with without adding that in. I do expect we'll get a ramp up of the drip-fed disclosure. Maybe announcement they found life in the alleged millions of light years away, when in reality the universe is nowhere near as big as they make it out to be. That's based on Earth-based science. It's not based on space-time. So we're going to have one song, and hopefully I'll be able to get Dr. Aiden in and see where he's at with his Monetize COLB, and maybe we'll get some updates on what's going on with the tribal people, see if he knows, and I know that we'll have a bit of fun along the way with his sparkling repartee. So enough from me for now, and we'll be back shortly. Hi all, and welcome back to the second hour this evening, and I'm delighted to have on where are we? That's it. I'm delighted to eventually, I will get round to it, to have Dr. Naidu back. Of course, those of you who have followed us over from Cosmic Voice know that he used to entertain us rather well on the shows we had on there. I was surprised today to realise it was 9 months since the last one. Time has really flown over. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Dr. Naidu. He of Monetize COLB fame and a few other things to do with international law and tribal law, and I'm sure we'll have an interesting conversation. Hi. Is he there?
Hi, Thomas. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Of course, it's morning for you there, isn't it?
That's correct, yeah. It's a little after 10, yes.
It's Friday morning. So how have you been?
Busy. Busier than the devil, busier than the Pope, busier than the President. Not necessarily in that order. I'm handling a lot of Aboriginal stuff here in Borneo and Australia. So that's taken its toll, not on me, on the government, that is, when we prove to them that they are the Johnny-come-lately. They can't simply walk into someone's territory and unfurl the Union Jack and say, in the name of the Queen or some king, we take your land.
Yes.
So they're beginning to wonder and ponder if what they've done was right.
Well, we've kind of covered a few things recently on shows about sovereign entities, who is sovereign and who is not.
Right.
One of the things that we found out that the UN is no longer a sovereign entity, and so they have no authority or power to issue any agreements or treaties. Well, and I think this is going to have a big effect on the tribal peoples going forward. Is that something that you've encountered?
Yeah, well, the United Nations is basically the devil incarnate, overlooking the East River in New York. They are really nothing. I mean, they have what their lofty ideals said in 1945 is no longer applicable, because it's just become another social club.
Yeah.
So why the United States puts up with the UN is anybody's guess, because we don't recognize the United States government anyway, because they are in our land, Indian country. The law they made is very clear about Indian country. So we should not even worry about the United Nations, because they mean nothing. They can do nothing. All they do is they are very good in talking. So they're part of NATO, NATO. No action, talk only, you know. That's all they do. Now, the Ban Ki-moon guy has gone back, and now we have someone else come in, and it's going to be the same old thing. Now, there was a time when Dag Hammarskjöld and U Thant were Secretary Generals. Those were halcyon days. Those were great days for the UN to do something meaningful in the Congo. If those of you who have celebrated the 35th anniversary of the 34th birthday can remember. So today, I mean, I've got two countries that are seeking, gasping for sovereignty and independence, and they want to get into the UN. I said, for why? Why would you want to go join that club and pay them $5 million entrance fee when you could invoke Article 1 of the Montevideo Convention of 1933, to which the United Nations was a signatory, and the Montevideo Convention is still in effect. And they've been looking at Article 1 of the Montevideo Convention and saying, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Now, Article 1 of the Montevideo Convention encapsulate the concept and doctrine of sovereignty beautifully. It says there are 4 elements to being a sovereign nation state. 1, you must have a definite population. Okay, we have that. 2, you must have a definite boundary or a discernible boundary. Well, we have that. 3, you must have your own government. We have that. 4, you must have the ability and the capacity and the capability of entering into treaties with other sovereign states. We've already done that. Yeah. So, I mean, every Native American tribe is eligible to become an independent sovereign state.
Yes.
You know, but getting that awareness and getting that awakening is, it's easier to have a tea with God than to awaken these people, because they are still talking about the problem. High suicide rates, high depression rates, high criminal rates, high drunken, states of mind, high drinking. And, I mean, So we know what the problem is, so why don't you solve the problem? You know, they pump you with more money, you buy more booze, you know, more weed, and you kill yourself. You wipe out your entire race that way, and you think the government is going to stop you?
Well, we're quite happy to sit back and
but
let us manage
really,
ourselves.
right? But really, Thomas, you know, when you really come to think of it, I don't blame the government at all. And when you say government, you got 535 idiocrats in Congress, 435 House, 3 from Washington, D.C., and 100 from the Senate, correct?
Yes.
Then you got what? Another 1,000 guys in the White House, the various government departments, I don't know. But what I'm getting at is the civil servants are less than 10 million, am I right?
I would say so, yes.
Including the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, the Rangers, the SEALs, whatever you have. Yeah. Less than 10 million, wouldn't you say?
Yes, I would say so.
But there are 100 million adults who are not in the services or not in the federal government. Now, 100 million is more than 10 million. Now, don't tell me 100 million men and women can't put up a resistance to 10 million people in government. I mean, I find that ludicrous to even think about. We are more than them.
Yes.
So I don't blame the government. I blame the people who sit back and say, damn it, my beer is not cold enough. Damn it, my steak is not well done or medium done or whatever it is. People don't do anything. We have become past masters in talking about the problem, making a movie about the problem, protesting about the movement, marching to Washington, D.C. about the problem. There are no solutions. We don't solve anything, Thomas. We talk.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been asking for a tribal police force since time began. What have we got? Nothing. Oh, where do we get paid? Huh?
It's a bit like we had the same issue on Drake more than I with the militia. Oh, we can't do this because that may be illegal. Well, hang on a minute. What are they doing to us? Is that illegal?
Yeah.
Is that legal or lawful?
Well, exactly. And that word legal, Thomas.
Yeah.
Legal is also defined as a law made outside of God's law. So legislatures are legal because they do not obey God. You know, so here you go. What is it that we want to accomplish and achieve and attain that we are not able to do it? Don't blame the government. 10 cops come to your house to terrorize you. Where are your 100 people, your neighbors to protect you? Oh yeah, but they were not here. Look at the Third Amendment. No soldier shall be quartered in peacetime in any private dwelling unless and until the permission of the owner is granted. Now, you don't tell me 100 million homeowners cannot invite one soldier into their home?
Yep.
Come on, Thomas.
Yep.
It's people. They're not doing anything.
Well, I'm hoping I've been talking about on these shows a sea of change, and there is a change in the people.
Nothing is happening, Thomas. Believe you me, and I'm an optimist. There will be one generation of... Yeah. Okay, good.
There is infighting within the cabal that's going to expose them on a wider scale, which will lead to people finally convincing themselves that something is not right here. It never has been right here. And I'm seeing more and more people supporting each other now than ever before, particularly in our group. And that's the way forward. We've become divided and conquered, not only by the government and the cabal, but amongst ourselves. And we're hoping to start a foundation shortly.
Yes.
I've been saying that for too many months now, but we do hope to get the go-ahead soon, where we can get people all working and pulling together. Once the people all realise that we're all not so different, and all start working together and fixing things together, then the idea that we need a government or a form of control system will disappear. But we have to get people out of their low self-esteem. I can't do this, or I'm incapable of doing that, or the government's this big behemoth, and we can't take them on.
See, it's very easy. It's very easy for 20 people to arrest 2 policemen who come to harass you. It's called a citizen's arrest. But you've never heard that happen in America. Why?
It's the fear program, isn't it?
Well, okay, fear is one thing, FEAR, false evidence appearing real. Okay, you've probably heard it. It's a stupid cliche now. Yeah, okay, fear. You mean to tell me everybody is afraid of a uniformed gangster? I just don't believe it, you know. I can't believe it. One guy comes, stops a car where there are 6 guys, and he says, "You've got a broken tail light." Okay, now who died because of my broken tail light? You got to fix it. Well, I'm in the middle of nowhere, moron. Where am I going to fix it? I'm just giving an example. You see, now he has stopped you, right? He has jurisdiction. And then he says, "Pop the trunk." And he finds about $200 million worth of crack cocaine. Now, I've never taken drugs in my life. I'm not into that. I'm not talking about what I'm going to say. Don't misunderstand me. I'm just saying these guys were stopped for a broken taillight, not for a potential search. You see? And I've been telling them, you know, ask him whether he has jurisdiction, and while he's talking, arrest him. Because you're an Indian country. He has to show proof that the spot where he stopped you, in the middle of nowhere, the title to that area has been extinguished, and there is no more Indian title. Then the question arises, oh, are you saying then that we all must become Indian Native Americans? What's wrong with that? As a citizen, you are subject to their laws. What laws? State law, county law, federal law, municipal law, you know, all of that. As a denizen, D-E-N-I-Z-E-N, you are only subject to Indian law, tribal law. Now, let's look at that. Yeah, but then doesn't the federal law come and kick me in my teeth? No, it doesn't. But look at 25 United States Code 450N. What does it say? Nothing in this act shall impair, diminish, or otherwise affect the sovereign immunity of the tribes from suit. They can't sue you. I didn't say that. It's not my twist. It's not my spin. That's the law. Federal law, 25 United States Code 450 small n. For November. That's what it says. You can't be sued. Hey, stupid, I just said you can't be sued. So now, why are you standing and waiting to be sued?
Isn't it a case that all the legal regulations only apply to people in the District of Columbia and not to the states?
Exactly. You know, and then I've told in my SAT council and in the COLB, get a bumper sticker. I'm protected by 25 USC 450N. Even if you're on a killing spree, it doesn't matter. They have no jurisdiction. We have jurisdiction. A tribal government. And keep copies of 25 USC 450N. Keep about 50, 60 copies and show it to every policeman. What do you mean? You can't stop me and drive away. A huge bumper sticker. I am protected by 450N, 25 United States Code.
Cool. Know about that one.
Yeah, it's there. You can Google it. Just go to Google and type 25 USC 450N. Piece of cake.
Well,
there are no limitations on it. Nothing.
Yeah.
So here we are telling people what to do. You know, I mean, the cabal self-imploding is great. I mean, they will eventually.
Yeah.
But, you know, but more than that, we people, the people who are right-thinking people, we got to be a discerning lot.
Yeah.
Like the foundation, who's going to be in charge? You know, there are some monkeys who should not even be looking after those funds. You know what I'm talking about, Thomas. You know, some people just should not be there.
Yeah, well, some people portray that they have certain funds when they really don't. And I think we both know what we're talking about.
Yeah. Of course, you and I know who we are talking about. But the point I'm trying to make here is you must keep away certain monkeys from that pot.
Yes, that is largely being done now. It is safe, it is secure. And part of the problem, the global problems, or the financial global problems, and why so many of the cabal are going into small countries and trying to steal all their wealth, is they've been cut off from the collateral accounts, as it's known. And the hacking attempts, we've reported many times on our shows, we know, because of the people I deal with, I know when they start hacking.
Yeah.
And they've failed every single time. And this is why they've gone into Ukraine, they've gone into Syria, and all kinds of other countries, Philippines. Sure. You know, it's all the same thing. All it's about to stay in the game. You know, the Queen of England, she had all her gold taken off her. There's a kind of famous picture that was put out on the internet a few years ago where she's gone through a whole warehouse of bars of gold.
Well, the Kohinoor still belongs to India.
Yeah, all of that is now gone to keep the higher players in the game.
Correct.
And eventually, pretty much now they're running out of it.
And you know, Thomas, this is why in 1980 I went on this crusade, you know, to teach, to show. You got less than 50,000 people controlling the banks and governments. City of London, the Fed, you know, less than 50,000 Illuminati, Freemasons, and what have you. Yeah. But there are almost a billion adults in the world. You mean to tell me they can't do anything about it? What is stopping you from starting your own banking system? I mean, look at what the Bitcoin fellas did. You know, people are not willing to learn how they can do it themselves.
Well, there is a new banking system, and it's waiting to go live. So it's been tested, and they've tried hacking it, and they can't. So once the cleanup is completed, which is already started, that will go live. So there is a clean banking system, a transparent banking system ready to roll.
Yeah, right.
And so things have kind of moved on a fairly big scale in many countries. You know, one of the things I covered recently was about we've spoken to all 209 governments, and the cabal have been printing bogus pieces of paper. Of course, we know most of the currencies are bogus pieces of paper, but they've been printing new ones in Hong Kong. And all 209 countries have now decided they are not going to validate that currency. The validation is the numbers on the pieces of paper. And so they've got a whole heap of currency, bogus currency, waiting to roll out. And all 209 countries are now on board and are refusing to take their orders anymore. They're refusing. There's 109 countries who signed up to the Paris Treaty, which are now going to renege on that deal because, again, it was another trap for the people. And because they've now been told that the UN is not a sovereign entity anymore as of 2014.
Yeah.
So they're pulling back, and so there's various countries. In fact, all the countries' governments are now cleaning house, particularly China.
Oh, yeah. Well, China has its own SWIFT system in place, AIIB, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. So they don't use the Belgium route anymore.
Yeah, so there's been a lot, like a small takeover, which will get bigger,
Yeah.
and the public will eventually start to see. I think the public is starting to see, or the alternative media is starting to see some of the things that have been mentioned, particularly on this show.
Yes.
There is a sea of change, and whether Trump delivers it or Trump is replaced in the near future by somebody who will remains to be seen. But ultimately, the cabal are in their death throes, and people will start to see it. Now, the problem is, as you've been saying, I went on an Irish radio show on Sunday, and I mentioned it in the first hour this evening. And the question is to the people, what happens if the cabal announce tomorrow that they're going to step down? What happens next? And the first answer is everyone says, I'm going to party, and that's fine.
That's good.
But what happens next?
After the party, yeah.
Yeah. You know, what are we just going to carry on with our slavery lives, or are we going to step up, become leaders amongst leaders, and step forward and be the change we wish to see? And this is what we've been encouraging in our group, in Th&I. Our members are fully on board, and they're getting involved, they're helping each other out. And hopefully when we get the foundation up and running, we can spread that wider, where everyone's pulling in the same direction. It looks encouraging. So,
but ultimately the power, all power and authority must come from the so-called governed, the people.
No, the people.
You see, it's all about
the power.
Correct. And forget the Constitution, forget all of that. I mean, primitive societies did not have. I mean, they were cashless societies too. Like today, you can eat what you like, you can travel where you like. After all, the fuel or the high octane gas that's fueling the airplanes, they all come from Mother Nature anyway, right?
Yep.
So it comes from some ground belonging to some aboriginal in some part of the world. So if you got food, shelter, clothing, necessities, why really do you need cash? Oh, I need cash to go on a vacation. Okay. Fly for free in exchange for your sweat equity. Eat for free and stay for free, because every hotel, motel, and dwelling inn or places of homestays and what have you are built on land and soil belonging to some hapless aboriginal all over the world.
Yeah.
So really, a cashless society is the answer.
I don't think we're... Yes, that's the ultimate goal. I don't think we're ready for that. I don't think the people... I know the people in the alternative media wouldn't trust it, because the danger is if you go cashless and that everything's done by an AI system, and they don't like what you have to say, they can just press delete and you've got nothing left. And so we would have to gain, I feel, get rid of the cabal and most of the control structure where they're not operating or impeding the people and the goals of a better society, where we gain trust amongst countries and the peoples. You know,
it's an education.
Yeah, I think we need a period of time where, you know, Catholics have got to trust Muslims, Americans have got to trust Middle East people. You know, it goes on and on. The divide and conquer is far-reaching, and we have to all come together and realise we're all not that different. And once you gain that trust, amongst the peoples, then and a trust in the new form of government that we will need transitionally. I think.
Yeah, I'm actually talking more about the people's liberty, which is sacred, but it need not be secret. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a sacred right, but they've made it a big secret. You know, oh, you're not to know your rights. You know, and I mean, for example, 9 out of 10 Americans are not familiar with what's known as the Right to Honest Services Act. You have a right to honest services by the public sector and by the private sector. It is your right not to be cheated.
Yes.
And if somebody is out to make you a laughing stock, he's violated a federal law. See, that's the kind of education that I'm not striving, I'm putting out there. You know, and that's why you have in the law of contract the contra preferentum doctrine. The contract maker is at a disadvantage. I mean, this is something homeowners can use. You know, the foreclosure people facing foreclosure.
Yeah.
So there is, I mean, your show will be one platform, Thomas, for sure, to get this message out, because ultimately, when the people get awakened, that's going to be one huge sea change. And I'm glad it's happening, albeit quietly. But that's good to know.
Yes, there's. I think people. I know some of the listeners to our show says, you know, things are going on behind the scenes.
That's good. That's good.
It had to be that way because the elements that are and the depth of heinous acts that are involved in, you know, of course, the public's now heard about Pizzagate. You know, it's tip of the iceberg, and it involves every single country around the world. You know, if they're not taking part in the acts with children, sacrificing them, sexually abusing them, or you know, just generally abusing them, they're involved in the trafficking of. You know, once that rolls out, Pizzagate to me is the start of it. Once that rolls out, then we will see the real sea of change, because everything that the people of the alternative media has been telling the sleepers that there's something not right about this planet will come to the fore, and then we'll see a real movement of action. But in the meantime, there's a lot of agreements like the Paris Treaty that's going to get annulled and voided altogether. The transatlantic trade agreement is going to get voided. The Pacific one is also going to get voided, and also the Dakota pipeline is also going to be voided. So we're going to. One of the tribal people will be one of the ones that released the first part of the free energy, as I understand it. So we will not need oil pipelines going across the America. We have enough wind energy, and we have a lot of other alternate sources of energy. In fact, my $1 trillion judgment against the ETP, Energy Transfer Partners, is ready to be sent for collections. There are 45 defendants. Wow.
They're going to be sending it out soon. Tom Weidler is getting it done.
Good. That sounds it. So, how are we doing with the Monetize COLB? Can you give a brief? We've got a lot of new listeners to this show. There's a lot more.
Yeah, we have close to
than Cosmic Voice.
Yes, we have close to 4,420 participants. The money that was sitting there has started to multiply, but we can't use it until I produce 20,000 birth certificates. And then we have launched what's known as a 2-for-1 deal. It's all there on www.monetizecolb.org. All the details and everything is there. And yeah, we're chugging along. We recently have reason to believe that somebody will step forward and supply us with the money and the 15,550 birth certificates that we need. Tom and I are actively discussing this with this particular gentleman and his group.
Yeah.
And I've told him we've been talking about this, NATO, another NATO thing, and you got till February 15th to produce, and otherwise we'll have to look at other alternate ways of reaching the 20,000 birth certificates. I don't understand why people are not anxious and eager and enthused and motivated and encouraged. I don't know. I'm not into sales and marketing. And so that's where we are, folks. 4,420 have signed up. I can tell you 85% of them are from overseas.
Overseas, as in outside of America?
Yeah. About 65% from Asia. And some from Australia, some from Spain, some from Portugal, some from England, Germany, Finland, South America.
Cool. Sounds good. Hopefully, you can get a few more in, and we can get some help to those people. Maybe the foundation can help at a later date. We'll see.
Yeah. In fact, the formula, why this will work, how this will work, everything has been thoroughly and painstakingly described and proven, evidenced.
Yeah. Well, one of the questions that comes up the minute it gets mentioned, and I always get asked, and perhaps I'd like you to address it, is given it's based on the birth certificate, which has a monetary value, a fairly high monetary value.
Yeah.
Who is in control of the birth certificate once it goes onto the new platform?
There is no one in control of your birth certificates simply because you're sending us a copy. Now, that copy is not apostilled or it's not even attested. We just want proof that you are who the document says it is. The birth certificate is just a paper copy of your identity, and the birth certificates are used, to use the word used, as a backup asset. The real asset that goes into play is your $500 that's pooled to buy an IBOE. So the question should be who's in control of the money, rather than who's in control of your birth certificate. Because they really have no control over your birth certificate. They cannot have control over your birth certificate because it's not the original or an apostille of the original. Now, and even if they have the original, what are they going to do with it?
Well, obviously these the birth certificates, as we found out over the last few years with people like yourself and some others, are currently being traded by somebody on the stock market. I think the concern of one or two who were asking the question was, well, is the birth certificate, as we know it, are being controlled via the Vatican? And if it's taken out of the control of the Vatican, who the worry from certain people who have asked me the questions is it going to the Asian faction, or is it going to the Nazi faction, or just like new boss same as the old boss? And that was the concern.
Yeah, as far as COLB is concerned, all right, I am running the show as far as the birth certificates are concerned. I evidence that John Smith has a birth certificate, and that's it. The auditor looks at it, and that's it. He doesn't evidence it to the multiplier, because the multiplier is not a bean counter, obviously. He's got people who tell him, yes, this is real, and that's it.
Yeah.
So nobody really controls your birth certificate. This is why in the beginning, when people said, oh, well, I got to get it apostilled, and I said, no, just send us a copy.
That's good.
Now, let's talk about the Vatican and birth control and birth certificates. That's the reason they don't support birth control, because they want everyone to be born, so that's what, $1 a day. 1 billion people giving $1 a day is $1 billion.
Yeah.
And they take a vow of poverty, and they're called sisters of the poor and fathers of the poor, or whatever. But they're richer than God.
Yeah.
So, does the Vatican control your birth certificate? Absolutely.
Yeah.
See, they know that an adult from the age of 19, maybe 21 till 70, will work for a major part of his adult life and earn an average of $70,000 a year, and you multiply that, 70,000 multiplied by 45 years, that's almost $3 million. So each of you earns in your lifetime $3 million. Sweat equity, give or take a couple of million here and there, okay?
Yeah.
1 billion people working in their lifetimes at 3 million a pop. Do the math.
Yeah.
So now, there is something called a prepaid variable forward contract, which is used in legal, lawful, legitimate fungibility of financial instruments in banking and finance. The prepaid variable forward contract. So someone now says, like the Vatican, hey, I've got 1 billion people who are worth, each of them is worth 3.5 million, just make it 3 million, per lifespan. Now you give me 500 million cash or gold or whatever, railway bonds, agricultural bonds, industrial bonds, corporate bonds, government bonds. Give me 500 million. In 6 months, I give you back 2 billion. Oh, what's your underlying asset? Don't worry about it. I'm the Vatican. Oh, of course, you're the Vatican. So what are they using? They're using your sweat equity. What do they call it? Prepaid variable forward contract. There's a book called Dark Money. I got it upstairs, too lazy to walk and pick it up. But if you read that book, it will tell you exactly what I'm telling you. Prepaid variable forward contract. In other words, if you've got $1 trillion worth of oil and gas under your feet in your reservation, and now you're cash strapped, but asset rich.
Yeah.
You can't go and take a capsule, you can't stick a finger into the ground and go and buy groceries and say, smell the oil, give me $100 worth of groceries.
Yeah.
So what this fella does, the guy who's flush with cash, he comes up and says, hey, I know what you got under your feet. Here's 500 million. All right, will you give me 2 billion down the road? Yeah, sure. Prepaid variable forward contract. That's how it works. Everybody does it. IMF does it. World Bank does it. AIIB does it.
Yeah.
Everybody. The Fed does it. The old lady at Threadneedle Street, City of London, they do it. That's business. That's the way they conduct it.
Absolutely. Except it doesn't.
So we know.
Joe.
Right. We know the formula. And we are trying to encourage Native American tribes to learn. You see? So that you can earn and learn and earn. But that educating system, that educating them, has become a torturous path in it and of itself. Why do they call it prepaid? And then you explain. Oh, why do they call it variable? Now, why do you call it future? Because it pays out in 10 years. Oh, well, why do you call it a contract? Okay, what was that again? Prepaid variable forward contract. Oh, I tell you, let's talk about it tomorrow. It's too much for me today. And this goes on to 6 months, 6 years, and then it's gone. Next generation comes. Oh, what are we good at? Suicides, high infant mortality. Okay, generation after generation after generation.
Yeah.
Where is the reprieve? Even education is a waste.
Yes, absolutely.
I went to open a college in Bismarck. They've got the Three Tribes College. I opened a law school there. And within 1 month, I got into trouble. They were saying, they pulled me aside and said, can you not do this anymore? And I said, why? I've got 600 students. And he said, yeah, well, let's take a walk. So we took a walk. And you know what this guy told me? He says, we rather have a casino, Judge. Help us get a casino. I could not believe what this guy was telling me. I just could not believe what he was telling me. They rather have a casino than a college. I made the class so interesting. I had 600 people, young and old.
It's short-term thinking again, isn't it?
Yeah, and they were fighting, how much do we pay? When do we pay? I said, hey. First of all, let me give you 1 month of free lectures, and then you sit for an exam, and then we'll see, Within 1 month, they got rid of me. Yeah. True story. In fact, that it appeared in one of the newspapers, the 3 affiliated tribes.
Now,
we'd rather have a casino. Yeah.
We've been covering the tribe stuff since the split from Cosmic Voice.
Yeah.
And where was I? Sometime last summer, there was a peace treaty signed, or the beginnings of a peace treaty. It's a loophole that the Australian tribe mainly found in the 16,500 year contract they made with the Draco, which then allowed them to control this planet. Now, the Australian tribe were the ones that found the loophole, and what has taken place since then is a whole range of all tribal people have been contacted and are asked to sign off on the agreement. I haven't had an update for the last few weeks, but there's that much going on. I can't keep track of everything.
Sure.
Now, at the Dakota pipeline, there was a whole heap of tribal people from all over, not only America, but Canada and the South America as well, where they did a burning blood ceremony, which is part of the peace treaty, where all the tribes are going to come together and eventually they are going to be able to take down any control system. Are you aware of that taking place? And if so, do you think the tribal people that you're aware of will be able to administer that?
I don't know, Thomas, because there is one guy, feathers and all, supposed to be the tribal chairman. Don't like that word. He's not a hereditary chief. He's got some English name like Archibald or Carbuncle.
Well, this is the Cherokee group, isn't it?
No, Standing Rock guy. And he was in the United Nations of all the bloody satanic places. So now, but Tom Whitely is in contact with the real deal through a lady called Phyllis Bald Eagle. I knew her father very well. Big chief of the Lower Brule Sioux, I think. Yeah. But she belongs to the traditional chiefs, the hereditary chiefs. So when you're dealing with tribal chairman, you're dealing with BIA. The Bureau of Indian Affairs, and they are nothing but paid spooks and spies for the government.
Yes, this is something we've come across because
Yeah.
the foundation people are speaking to all the, have spoken to all the tribal people, and they've been negotiating with them.
See,
And the issues that have come up is that they don't seem to they seem to send their warrior types rather than the people-based types from the
correct.
tribal groups,
See,
and this is the problem.
Thomas, is very, very simple. All right, I figured this long time ago. Now, they've got more than $2 quadrillion worth of oil and gas under their feet, right?
Yeah.
Now, you don't want to mine it, you don't want to quarry it, because you're disturbing your sacred burial grounds, right? Now,
Correct.
you get a prepaid variable forward contract angel investor. Without digging the asset, you can still go into the money markets and make money. Because your asset is still underground. Coal, C-O-A-L, that's a big thing. Mine the coal, leave the oil and gas alone. The world is starving for coal. India needs coal. China needs coal. And they've got new products and processes that it's environment friendly, it's eco-friendly. There are no gaseous emissions. So what I'm saying, what I think the foundation should do is to learn, I mean, I'll be more than happy to show them how it's done, about prepaid variable forward contracts, and then get that money put into a PPP or put into some program that will multiply money without damaging the environment.
Well, as I understand, money is not really an issue to the foundation.
Correct.
Basically, all the accounts that they control are all the people's accounts that's been stolen. I'm aware there is a fairly substantial account that I was asked would I put forward or go and speak with the tribal people of America. But there's a whole heap of funds that was stolen as far back as the 1700s that belongs to the tribal people. Now, the issue that we're having is the ones that are in control of the tribes are all, as you said, spooks. And some of them in the Cherokee group are out-and-out Nazis. It's part of the Nazi faction. There's one guy who resides in Scotland and another guy resides in London. And they're the ones that are doing the negotiating, and they're not interested in tribal people or Native Americans, period. They're only interested in collecting account money. If there's tribal people listen to this, or if you can get in touch with the tribal people, they really need to appoint people that are looking or have interest in their people. And also the rest of the people that live in this country. You know, it's not our fault that we're on your land. My personal opinion is land belongs to everybody, not individuals. And the sooner we get to that stage where land and resources belongs to everybody on this planet and not to Rothschilds and Rockefellers and all the other clowns that perpetrate it, then we will have a proper civilized society. At the moment, the tribal peoples have been offered all kinds of deals, and they've asked for all kinds of deals, and they've been granted them. But now they're wanting complete autonomy, which then leaves them vulnerable to counterattack. And we're trying to warn them of that, but they seem to think they can defend themselves, which is a bit silly. And so they really, I'm hoping maybe with your links to some of the tribal groups, you can get them to send some negotiators that are more people-based and not new boss as the old boss, so to speak. Hopefully.
Yeah. We can do that. If that's what it takes to get the message across, by all means.
Yes, they've been granted the land back, and and the resources, from what I gather, and they're free to sell those resources to who they choose. One hopes that the tribal people don't repeat, just don't follow the same path as the cabal. You know, unfortunately, there's many in the tribal group who've now gone down the route of being westernized, and you just gave the perfect example. They don't want a law court, a law school. They want a casino, of course.
You see? Yeah.
That's the problem. You know, it's short-term fix, and let's make the money. Well, the money runs out, and what have we got left? Nothing. You know, so we really need the tribal people to step up and be the spiritual people-based persons that they're known for, and not warrior types. And hopefully that will be a good day, because they have been given a lot of the land back, but they're being a bit awkward with some of the rules and regulations, so to speak. Yeah, they need to be a bit more flexible.
Yes, yes.
Right, that hour is very quick. Anything you'd like to say before we wrap up this hour?
Well, I think enough has been said. We'll continue with this discussion in the next show, or whenever you have the opportunity to give me an opportunity to teach.
That'll be good.
All right, my friend. Thank you.
No, thank you. So you want to just say your website again, and also your email?
Yes.
Because I keep getting asked for your email.
Okay, my email is knowledgevillage80a@gmail.com. That's knowledgevillage80a, lowercase, a as in apple, @gmail.com. Our website is www.scripturallaw.org. SCRIPTURALLAW, 1L, scripturallaw.org. And the other website is www.monetize COLB, Certificate of Live Birth, that is, MONETIZE COLB.org. If you want to look at documents pertaining to taxation and the law, go to www.triballaw, two words, but as one word, TRIABALLAW, triballaw.tk, tomato ketchup.
Right.
That's where we are, folks.
Thank you very much for coming on. Sorry it's been so long.
That's all right, yes.
We look forward to having you on again.
Sure.
It's always entertaining. I'm sure the listeners have learned a few things tonight, like I have.
Oh, yeah, there's good. Never an end to learning. I mean, I learn every day when I talk to you, too. You know, it's good synergy. All right, Thomas, be well. We'll definitely have a chin wag soon.
Yes.
Bye.
Right. Thank you. And that was Dr. Naidu of Monetize COLB. We used to have him on quite a lot in Cosmic Voice, and I was surprised it was so long. Right, we'll have a music break, and then we'll go into some Q&As for the final hour. Let me see which one. Yeah. Hi all, and welcome back to the final hour this evening. I hope you enjoyed listening to Dr. Naidu. He's always entertaining, and we thank him for coming on. I want to, in the first hour, I went on about Mr. Trump and some of his indiscretions and some of the concerns about him, and that should not be overlooked. But what should also not be overlooked is the fact that he has the potential to make the change, and this is something that we all are hoping will take place. If we had ended up with Hitler, there would have been no potential for any change. At the moment we have potential. At the moment I'm also seeing signs that things are changing, and I'm hoping that between now and the end of this month that will escalate. So the person who said what's going to take place in the next 2 or 3 weeks, change. Right, we'll go into some questions. First one, you said that 214 governments, it's actually 209, but that's okay, are refusing to accept the faction's bogus paper, and that as they clean their own house they'll receive funds from the trust. At the same time, you have said that 50% of Congress being pedophiles is low-balling. If governments are largely made up of criminal pedos and Satanists, who is it that's implementing this policy of house cleaning? Right. The first part is, yes, we have spoken to all 209 governments, and yes, they are refusing to validate the bogus notes that they've printed in Hong Kong. So they will just sit there in that bunker, and eventually there'll be a fire and it will go poof. Once the governments have cleaned up, it's not just the governments that are dealing with it, it's some of the military, some of the contractors, in inverted commas, and many of what would formerly be known as the White Hats, although that group doesn't officially exist any longer, but that's the term that most people are familiar with, are producing certain documents because they have files on all people in government, on what they've been up to, who they've been involved with, where the money's come from, etc., etc. So the cleaning up will take place, and yes, a number of the American Congress have been involved in rather heinous crimes. That doesn't mean to say that the rest of the world are that high. I think it's worse here than it is anywhere else, with the exception of possibly Britain. Of course, we're kind of still ruled by Britain, so it's the same people pulling off the same stunts. So it's up to the good guys, and also some of the cabal who haven't been involved in the deeper layers of crimes. Not all of them are Satanists and pedos, who are actually helping out and removing the rogue elements that will hamper humanity going forward. So I hope that answers the question. Will there be gaps in individual governments? Yes, there will be. They will be filled by decent people. I think there'll be a lot more vetting of people going in. And it's up to the people themselves. It's like Dr. Naidu says, we complain about the government, but do any of us put ourselves forward to be the change? If we want a different government, then we need some of the people out of the alternative community to say, well, I'll put myself forward. But too often we come up against our own self-limitation, and I can't do that, I can't do that. Yes, we can. All of us can. We just have to stop limiting ourselves in what we can and cannot do. We are all capable of doing far more than we have done, each and every one of us. So it's not a case of let's install more clowns to trample all over us. Maybe some in the alternative community who are people based and spiritual based can step forward and go into that role and be the example for the rest of them. That's how you make the change. What is the origin of the game? Big question there. The origin of the game is more to do with the origin of the people who decided it was a game to begin with. It would be fun to stifle humanity. That doesn't mean to say we had to play the game, but we did. But then they changed the rules. The origin of the game is they think, or the ones that have damaged humanity think they are acting source or acting gods. We've seen this riddled through the religious books and the scriptures. People thinking they're the solar being, or this particular god or that particular god. People of their own self-importance. Service to self, not service to others. And then the pharaohs. You got Ra and Horus thinking they're the solar being. No, they're just playing the solar being. That's the real origin of the game. People with way overinflated egos thinking they can be source or God, whichever way you want to call it. I'm finding it hard to believe that only 10 to 12% are humans. What makes you come up with this number, and can you explain more? Like, are some trapped and can we help them? Doesn't seem like we have a population problem if all those numbers are accurate. This is quite an extensive study and probably will take a whole show to explain it. But bit by bit we've been taken over by synthetics. The clone technology is far more advanced than people give it credit. You know, people say, how can you tell the difference? Well, all of us have looked into people's eyes, and some of us are able to read them. If they're empty and dark, there's no one at home. It is a kind of frightening number, but then we're basing numbers based on what the cabal are telling us actually exist on this planet. My belief is it's nowhere near 7 billion. When you consider we've killed more in the last 100 years than we did in the previous tens of thousands of years, be it wars and bogus plagues and all kinds of human-made flus, and yet they're trying to convince us we've doubled the population in the last 20 years, when a whole batch of Europe and the whole of the United States and Canada have reduced the birth rate by 50%. The Ponzi scheme that the cabal run, which involves birth certificates, benefits and social security and national insurance, as it's called back in the UK, relies heavily on the fact that they need 2.3 children per family, except the Western world is producing 1.2. So this is why we've had an influx of the ridiculously named immigrants or illegal aliens. Like I've said, you can't be illegal on your own planet. That's their terminology, not ours, or shouldn't be ours. So you have a whole batch of Europe and Western worlds who are 50% down. Then you have the African nations who have been decimated by war and famine. Then you have India, who are decimated by famine and poverty. China, nobody, I don't think even people in China are aware what goes on in China, but we're told they've got over 1 billion people. Can we prove it? And yet China has had a one-child policy for how many decades? So how on earth, since the 70s, has it gone from 3 billion or 4 billion to 7 with all that evidence? Clearly it's not. So that's where the figures come in, where it makes it feel impossible, because you're basing it on their bogus figures of 7 billion. It's nowhere near it. Now 10 or 12% is fairly low, but then when you add into the fact the two worlds theory that I mentioned early December, which many of you are actually seeing, 1 in 10 being awake and seeing reality for what it is, it's not such a low number, is it? I hope it's higher. Sadly, I don't feel it is, but time will tell. The Black Knight satellite, we've had that question a number of times. I think it's Draco, to be quite honest, given the timing, 13,000 years ago. I think it's Draco technology, really should be blown out of the sky, in my opinion. We've had enough of their dodgy tech, them and the mantids. As timelines condense and the 5D timeline splits off, what happens to those who refuse to wake up, regular sleep people included? Will they exist in an alternate universe, unaware that anything is different? Will those on the new timeline just disappear from the old? Multiple question, that one. This idea that we're going to go from 3 to 5D is new age stuff, not based in reality. What happens to those who refuse to wake up? It depends on the ones that are living souls or the ones that are synthetic. My personal theory is, which I explained a couple of months back with the loop, when I explained the loops with the wave, the natural organic wave and the inorganic holographic wave that overlaid this system and the planet. Once those two fail to intersect anymore, which it's not going to happen anymore, so the loops have ended, then what is real will stay and what is not real will actually disappear. It's a hologram, but just a projection. That's how they've managed to get away with what they've done for so long. So I hope that answers the question, but in essence they will continue on their holographic wave to exist, but that holographic wave will no longer intersect with the natural organic wave that we will remain on. Once we go back into the organic system, which we all should have been part of, then the interference, which may also not be real, some of it is, but there will be elements that are being added in to create fear, will also disappear. Humanity is going to get an opportunity to fix its own house, and it's up to each and every one of us, living souls that is, to do so. Lots to look forward to. I think it was said that no collateral money will be given to any country's government. How is this going to help the people who need it, and how is it going to be monitored to make sure it's not being corrupted? Well, there's been a lot of stuff that's gone on in the background. Yes, it's that behind the scenes again. You can never be 100% certain, because there'll always be people who want to buck the system. You know, we'll be hopefully starting the foundation soon, and we hope that people won't abuse it. We sadly think that that will be the case, and obviously we will put measures in place so that it goes to the right people, and not people are just going to abuse it because it's money. You know, it's all about, it comes down again to personal responsibility. But collateral money will be given to every country to rebuild their country, to rebuild the people, and to improve the environment and infrastructure, provide them with basic needs that, you know, most of us that listen to this show already have the basic needs. Yes, some of us go a bit short than others, but when you compare it to some of the African countries and some in the Middle East that we've bombed into oblivion, and some of the southern Russian countries, India and China also, it pales into insignificance of what our needs are compared to theirs. So already some of the collateral accounts, or what's known as the collateral accounts, has gone out to certain tribal peoples in Africa and South America to get them up and running, whereby they don't need to be killing elephants for the tusks, or tigers for the skins, or chopping down trees in the forests in the Amazon. They can be provided with funds to not do that. So that's a good way forward. Was the photo Benjamin Fulford had in his article last week, the body on the banquet table, real or fake? I don't know the answer to that question. It's possible it was real. This is what these people do. They seem to think it's some sort of fun to sacrifice people. This goes back to the ancient times, long before the Native Americans roamed these hallowed grounds. You know, the South Americans and the Incas and the Aztecs decided that it was a good idea to sacrifice animals and children and family members to the gods. That same thing again. So they'll come down and help them. One hopes as we become a lot more educated and civilized that we end that nonsense once and for all. Yes, they may have better tech than we have, although we have caught up. But the idea that they're better than us or more educated or more civilized is far from it. And we really need to stop those people doing it. Nobody on this planet should be sacrificed for the benefit of anybody, in my opinion. I cannot hear out of my left ear. Will I get the left ear frequency downloads? You will still be able to receive the frequencies. It's a vibration. The ear is just an amplifier. That's all. Yes, it will be not as easy, but people who have issues with hearing often elevate more of their other senses to compensate for the loss of hearing. You know, people say, oh, there's some people who are blind who can't see. But if you close your eyes, you can still see light. Where's that sight coming from? We don't just have two eyes, remember. Well, like I said, it's very difficult, and I feel for people who are struggling, who are deaf and blind. It must be really bad living in a quiet world. Some people will like that. Some of the noise we have to put up with, but it is not much fun. But you will still receive those frequencies. It just won't be amplified in the way people with normal hearing. I know once I get this document finished on the show, I'll be able to tell you, Roger, and all the other people that listen to this show what exactly you are listening to. It will be groundbreaking. Which cities are domed and how and why they domed? It's part of their tech that creates weather wars. It can also prevent that particular city being subjected to weather wars also. It can also be used as a frequency enhancer. I'm not at liberty to say which ones, but there is one, particularly over the Americans and Canada. It's more prevalent than people realise, but I have already outed there's one over Antarctica. I've seen it. Are things going to plan as far as the cabal are concerned? No, they're not. No, they're not. Like I said earlier, they may think that they'll just trim the fat. I think they're going to eat the lean, and I think that it's already started. You know, the fact that the UN are telling Israel that they're going to move them out of the lands and back nearer to the 1967 borders, which is where they should be. Some would argue they shouldn't be there at all, given the past history of that area. But that is a massive change. The fact that Mr. Netanyahu is being brought up for fraud and bribery and corruption is a change. And bit by bit you'll see that being increased right around the world. So things are not going as they planned. They haven't been able to access the collateral accounts. They haven't been able to crash the stock markets. They haven't been able to crash the dollar. All these things that were in place, they haven't been able to declare martial law in America. A lot of their major false flags have been prevented. Project Bluebeam prevented. Earth Escape and Kill Shot the Planet was prevented. Now they're stuck here whether they like it or not. The bullshit with CERN was ended. Another We'll Escape and Kill Shot the Planet because we won't get what we want. Again, it failed. So nothing's going their way, and this current infighting will increase, and that's where we will get our disclosure. That's where we are getting our disclosure. We've had a raft in the last 12 months of public figures being exposed for who and what they are. That will increase. What the public want to see and what I want to see is actual arrests in the public eye. Yes, I'm aware of things taking place behind the scenes, but I think it's about time we started seeing some very public events so that the people then have full proof and not just believing what I'm telling you of what is actually taking place. Was the biblical flood one of the Earth's resets, and if so, what happened to the earthborn souls? Yes, it was. It was engineered by the gods again. my theory is, and it's only a theory, is that humanity has been blamed for near destroying itself. I don't doubt that that is a possibility. Bear in mind, this is the sixth major Earth population civilization that we've had here, and I've no doubt we've made mistakes in the past, but I just have an inkling that 26,000 years ago was nothing to do with humanity. It was to do with the Atlantis people, or perhaps they weren't people. And 13,000 years ago was Draco and the Anunnaki clans. They're the ones that did it. Now, 13,000 years ago, we reached a level of technological expertise. Some of it was ET stuff, and some of it we couldn't handle. We weren't ready for it. It's like going into the jungle in the middle of Brazil for tribes that have never seen Western civilization, and handing them a laptop and telling them to do emails and stuff. They have no idea. But then some of it was weaponry. So was that humanity's fault, or was that the irresponsibility of the ETs who were here? And was it setting us up for a fall? So then they can go to the council and go, humanity failed again with their programmed AI system. It seems to think humanity are all savages that destroy each other. Some portions of the world, you can't argue with that, but not all. So we've reached the 13,000 year zenith again, where we're now in a technological age where we have the ability, if we spent less money on weapons and more on research for the benefit and the future of humanity, we might actually do something with that technology. We weren't meant to stay here forever. It's a learning planet. We should have left a long time ago, but maybe somebody decides to keep us here and control us, and that is what I feel has taken place, and they've pushed the blame onto humanity far too much. I'm not saying that we're not, as a species, we're not blameless, as we are. If you had all the abilities, there's no way we should be in the position that we're in now. You know, telepathy, and then suddenly we've got the spoken word, which leads to lies and trickery and spells and magic. If you had telepathy, all those words and lies and magic would cease to exist. So we have descended ourselves to a degree for whatever reason. But I think there's been a lot of skullduggery when we've reached technological level and we can go out into the stars where we actually belong, some of us, and they've reset it. This time they're not. They won't get away with it again. On the Sarah and debt forgiveness really going to happen soon, I wouldn't count on it too much. It's a possibility. That's all it is. You know, I'd like to think that there will be some form of it. Maybe the foundation is Nasara. You know, like I've said in previous shows, why are we waiting for something else? If we get 200 million American adults putting $1 in, imagine what we can do with 200 million each month. We could very quickly wipe everybody's debt out with $1 a month. So you wouldn't necessarily need to wait for governments or trust funds. We could fix it all ourselves. Now, obviously, with the trust accounts, there are certain things are going to be done whereby it's going to benefit all the people. There's a number of projects, a number of programs ready to roll that's going to improve people's lives drastically. Debt forgiveness should be part of that, but I haven't seen full evidence to suggest that that's the case currently. But like I said, we could fix it ourselves very, very quickly. $1 a month, or even quicker, $1 a week, $4 a month. $4 a month for every adult is 800. Well, it's 4.5 weeks, so it's 900 million. Imagine how many people we could take out of debt with that. Something to think about. What are some effective ways to clear implants? How can we know what implants we have and if the clearing was effective? Difficult one to answer. You have to have an ability to see beyond normal sight to be able to view them, if you understand that answer. Now, some people can do it fairly easy. Some people have to work at it, and some people, or a lot of people, don't believe they have the third sight. So if you don't believe you have a third sight, then you're not going to be able to see the implants. There's people who can see auras. The reality is we can all see auras, but we've forgotten how to do it. There's people who can bilocate from one part of the planet to another, project the whole body. The body's still in bed, but the spirit's not. Now, that would be classed as special, but it's not. It's just that individual recognizing they can activate that dormant ability. How can you clear things and make yourself better? By believing you can do it. It comes down to, yet again, down to self-imposed limitations. Now, the implants are different. Some of them have a wire-like structure, like the Magellans. Some of them are a lot more hard to spot, but you'll pick up the frequency. They can insert implants into vaccines. Chips are a lot smaller than you realise. Some of the soul cubes that they thought they were going to implement, that got blocked and stopped. So you have to believe you can see. Then once you see, you remove, project it out. Once you've removed it and ejected it out of your system, then you've got to believe that that's what you've done. It's all about belief. We've just forgotten again. Like I keep saying, we've forgotten it. Where are we? If most of the peoples of America and the world are considered surety for debt, and it was our value that was used to build the world as we know it, how will all of this be corrected going forward? I've spent many months researching this very topic, and it's horrendous how we've been enslaved and stolen from. Yes, it is. The reality is, as Dr. Naidu said earlier, it's us that have allowed it. You know, yes, I said last week, yes, the cabal will play games, But too many who are not part of the cabal, not one of the bloodline, or one of the families, or one of the royals, or one of the hybrids, have participated for the sake of money, and sold not only themselves out but the people out. Once those people realise what they've been doing, and this includes people in the agencies, and people who work for the government, and people who work for the IRS, your love of the paycheck is harming all of the people. So as Dr. Naidu says, they're only 10 million maximum. What about the rest of the adults who say we're not participating? And as difficult as that may sound to some, it is the reality. We have participated in it, we've allowed it. I don't want to say nothing because I don't want to lose my job, and I understand all that. We've all been in awkward positions. But when the future of humanity is at stake with these clowns of what they're doing, building robots to replace us, why are we continuing to sit back and do nothing? They've told you what they're going to do. They're going to build robots and replace us all. What do you think they're going to do with us? Is that the cabal's fault, or is that our fault? Maybe it's somewhere in between. If we continue to participate in our own destruction, then ultimately it's our own fault. What we hope to do soon is wake as many people up as possible just to not play their game. Some of these clowns think it's absolutely hilarious what we tolerate. Jailing people for collecting rainwater. That's madness. We already know they're psychopaths. That's why they come up with psychopathic laws. But that doesn't mean to say we have to participate in it. We need all, and that includes myself, need to grow a set and say, F you, we're not playing your game no more. All need to sign the document at work and stop your employer sending your taxes, withholding taxes. Claim it yourself. Eventually you can put some of it towards the foundation, which is going to help average people, not corporations or governments, average people on the street. We were told by the IRS CEO that income tax was voluntary, and yet we all pay it. That's being stupid. And it all comes down to fear. And once we get over the fear factor, that the fear is not real to begin with, and we empower ourselves in numbers, because they'll pick us off if we're the few. The minute there's numbers, they can't. They have no control over us. They know that. It's just we have to recognise that fact. So yes, we've been held as surety for our labour, both for the present and the future. It's up to us to decide we're not tolerating that no more, and we take it back. Once we start doing that, you'll find they will collapse like a house of cards. Some of their foundations are collapsing already, including some of the bigger ones, as we well know. How will replicators work for the average person? I understand we can replicate anything we want. Not exactly, but pretty much. But what about houses and large items? They're already using replicators to build houses in China. They're building 10 per day. So this is where we have to think careful about how far we go with replicators, whilst their numbers are still large enough to exert control over a fear-based populace. With China are building 10 homes per day. So what happens to the people in the construction industry? The homes are already, all it has to do is be hooked up. It comes fully painted. So you don't need painters. All the walls are done. All the doors are done. Kitchens all done. Cupboards all done. Closets all done, as I understand it. Where's the jobs for the joiners, etc., etc.? Plumbing will always have to be hooked up. Electrics will have to be hooked up. But suddenly there's no joiners, no painters, no roofers. Something to think about. But they cannot replicate fermented. So beer, cheese, that type of stuff, wine, anything that is fermented cannot be replicated too well, as I understand it. So I would think replicators would only work. I'd like to see it if it produces food to the nutritional value. I'd like to see them given to the peoples who have no food first. You know, they should be the priority. Where are we next? Shouldn't the pedophilia and child sacrificing be the #1 priority? Why is it still going on, and when will it end? I know that it's coming to light slowly, but we are far from ending it. I would say it was high on the list. I think it already is high on the list. Largely the populace is unaware of it, and there's a large element in the alternative community who won't look at it because it's too painful. But it is ongoing. More and more are being exposed, more and more are having their files put in their face and reminded what they have done. And more will just disappear. I'm not so sure it's going to be of value to the people overall to be spread all across the mainstream media with high profile trials. I think it will be far too traumatic for the families involved, who have been involved, who have suffered because of it. And I think it will also be far too upsetting for the empaths. I think, like I said, it's only my opinion, those type of trials should be behind closed doors, with a cross section of the public to oversee the fact that justice has been done and served correctly. So we're not relying on any skullduggery with justice systems. Are all triangle UFOs belong to the cabal? Pretty much. Where are we next? Regarding all those entities who were captured, the ones you said were controlling a lot of well-known people in the States, I understand why they couldn't just get rid of them all at once, but are they still controlling those people? Because it seems they are, or at least I'm not noticing any big difference. Well, some people have started dying, haven't they? I opened the show and kept it short. I didn't play the whole song for a reason, because it's still uncertain. But more and more of the public figures are starting to die off. Now, some of them are old, and I admit that. But the fact that they're all dying one after the other, no matter what age they are, suggests there's something else going on. And you will see it increase. A lot of people are going back to the pedophilia and child sacrifice, and some of them that have taken part in the rituals are actually killing themselves because they know what's coming, or what has already started to come. Eventually it will reach an avalanche. What is our new world going to look like when we will know for certain we are finally free? That's up to all of us to decide. You know, for the first time ever, we have an opportunity in the coming years to dictate how humanity, free from control structures and bogus and dodgy AI systems and reptilians and mantids and greys and all kinds of other people who really shouldn't have been here. How are we going to go forward? Are we going to replicate the cabal? That's the big concern. Are we going to put people in charge that are spiritual and people based? I mentioned about the tribal people. That doesn't augur too well. They're sending warrior like people again to negotiations. Yet again, the few who are of the violent nature are being pushed forward into positions of so-called power. It's time for the tribal people to turn around and pull them out of the front line and insert their own people that are spiritual and people based. Then we have a chance to move forward and have a greater flexibility in our decision making to dictate how we go forward. You will not gain peace by sending warriors to negotiating tables. It didn't work out in the cosmos. That's why they've been fighting for a minimum of 1.5 million years and longer. Always warriors to the peace table, which is an irony in itself. So it's up to us. We have to become the adults of the planet, all of us, and decide how we want to have this planet run for the benefit of we the people, and the benefit of the plants that stay here, and the benefit of the mammals that stay here, and the fish and the birds. So for the benefit of all that remain here once the others are permanently removed. Are there any updates on the UPU? There's been bits in each show. There's none this week. Everything's in complete lockdown. Where are we now? It's pretty much 11 o'clock. Why have we not seen or heard from people like Neil Keenan, David Wilcock, Karen Udis and Simon Parkes? I think that's fairly obvious. You're hearing less and less from them because they're being exposed more and more in different ways and at different levels. Not all as bad as one another. Some are worse than others. What is the Hertz frequency of Earth now? As I understand it, it's 7.83, but I could be wrong on that. That's the last one I remember. I could be wrong. With all the deep underground military bases, are the cabal getting ready for another reset? No. Some rather interesting, for those of you who follow the site REOS, as I posted on the page a while back. For those of you who have an interest in it, there's some very interesting earthquakes in inverted commas in some very interesting places that are nowhere near fault lines. 2 and 2 tells you that there's something else, and they have suddenly disappeared. One in very northern Canada towards the islands this week was removed. Another one off the coast of Vancouver Island, and one in the middle of the North Sea. Is Queen Lizzie dead? It appears to be the case. Is anybody ever going to know? Well, we're waiting for the synthetic news media. We may wait forever. Remember, they kept Nelson Mandela's death quiet for 5 months. They use it for maximum impact. So if there's a certain story like Trump winning the electoral college votes last Friday, they came up with the Fort Lauderdale incident. Or they want to hide what's troop movements going on for the benefit of NATO. They'll put another story out. This is how they work. Why do some imagine the American people need permission to engage the enemy? Well, people in general, not just American, have forgotten they have the power. They always have had. Just we've forgotten what is a green light. It was supposed to be for the militia to step forward, but I think to the person who's asking that question, I think we have a long wait with that. And who is this to command the sovereign people? Well, that's the illusion of power that they think they have, and the people think they have also. Once that changes, that ends also. And in fact, the people reject any concept of a general of the militia. Well, we're still waiting. The American people are waiting for the militia to step forward and do something for the benefit of the people. If they're not going to take government on, then they could at least take the local states on and block foreclosures by standing in front of the door and telling the bailiffs and the cops to go and do one. Self-empowerment. Let me see. I know it's gone past 11, but there was a few more questions that I didn't get round to. In fact, there's a lot more. The bank failure situations seem to have fallen off the radar. Are failures still pending? If the banks survive, will they continue on with crooked business as usual? The bank failure was blocked because we would have lost all our money. Remember, it's not the bank's money, it's the people's money that they have in accounts. So theirs are all in offshore platforms. What's in the main banks on the high street is the people's money. So they're not bothered about collapsing the bank, because all theirs is hidden in assets and offshore accounts, which is slowly but surely being eradicated. So, as I understand it, there will be no failures of banks unless something is put in place and the funds are protected for the people connected with that bank. It won't be allowed to crash and people lose all the money. And if the banks survive, will they continue on with the crooked business as usual? No. We have spoken to all the banks. Some are quite happy to go on are continuing to be the crooks that they are, but some have decided to step out and step down. Hopefully that will spread out with the rest of the banks when they become isolated. Do you want to address coastal regions and changes in sea level? I'm not too sure what you mean by that. Will it be catastrophic? No, if that's what you're asking. They rise and they fall. There's a rumour about a possible press conference being held shortly after the inauguration involving a certain celebrity coming out of the witness protection programme. Could this be one of the public events we've all been waiting for? It's a possibility. There's a whole heap of positive possibilities waiting to roll after January the 20th. I'd like to think it was 100% certain, but we've all been promised far too much in the last 4 to 5 years, and very little has come to fruition. So we'll wait. Unfortunately, we're in the wait club again. But perhaps we won't have as long to wait like we have. Is John Rappaport correct that we had a coup? No. It can't possibly be a coup because we don't have a government. A coup is only something where you remove the government. We don't have a government. We have a services corporation pretending to be a government, so it's not a coup. The traditional day of the week for quietly releasing big news that will hopefully be ignored by the public and also obscured by the Fort Lauderdale airport shooting. The Chief of Homeland Security announced that his office will be taking over US elections. I would suggest that was more to do with Nazi faction BS, to be quite honest, but we'll see. Any updates on the restoration of our republic? Not until the clowns are removed. Seems it's just a corporate government USA business as usual. As it stands, yes. But Trump has a potential to change that. Whether he exercises that remains to be seen. Hopefully he will. Do you have any insights what's transpiring on the financial fronts? The financial info is kind of dropped like a stone. It's just it's almost like time is frozen. In fact, this month feels like time is frozen. It feels like the end of January, and yet we're only halfway through the second week. The markets are not moving too much one way or the other, and there's a complete silence on it. And I think this is to do with what's being negotiated, and particularly on the US front. Over the past week, most of the negotiations in the last week have involved America and what they're going to do with the American finances, just this last week alone. So I think whilst we were waiting for the end of last year to end, which ended their fun and games because of the celestial calendar, I think we're also waiting for January the 20th and see what takes place between now and the end of this month. We'll get an insight of how it's going to go. Things do look encouraging, I will say. Is the judge going to talk about the COLB monetization program? Yes, he is. And with that should wrap it up. I apologise if I didn't get to all your questions. I know there's quite a bit left over, but I've done the best I can. Hopefully we may have a show on over the weekend, and if not, then it will be soon after. There's a lot to condense into a show format, and once it's all done, we'll have an extra show to explain all that. And maybe just after that show we might have Lily Earthling coming on soon as well. You can look forward to that. Right, I hope you enjoyed the show, and we go forward with renewed vigour that things are actually taking place, because they are, and hopefully we'll get more definitive, right in your face stuff. That's what we all want. Anyway, until then, if you lead life in love and care, you will prevail. If you lead life in fear and anger, you will fail. Feel free for you to be the person you wish to be, not the person who conforms to what others want them to be. You are a multi-dimensional being operating simultaneously on many levels. You are not here to conform. You are not here to be stifled. You are not here to be enslaved, and you certainly aren't here to be abused. You're also not here to compete with your friends, family or neighbours. You are here to be the best you can be, and do so as the crown of creation. Now go out with the confidence of who and what you are, and excel in yourself, and in doing so inspire others. My name is Thomas Williams. This has been The Truth, Honour and Integrity. Bye for now.